Hey folks, so I know I said I was going to take a break for a couple of weeks, but I ran across an interesting article um, just in this past couple of days. It got me thinking. I'm going to go ahead and share it with you so you know what I'm talking about here. It's essentially an article about an AI program rewriting its own code, as you can tell from the title there, to prevent its users from shutting it down. And then, of course, you've got the standard Terminator shot there. But what got me thinking, and again, this is going to be a little bit of a tangent from the writing thing, although it is kind of related, um, about our interactions with AI as humans. And the reason that it kind of sparked a thing and why it's kind of connected to this channel is that I actually use AI-enabled tools, specifically Firefly. I use it as it's a Adobe Acrobat program that I use to help generate book covers, and it works really well. Um, and and I'm sure other people are, obviously a lot of people are using AI out there and more every day. Um, but this got me thinking, actually, about how just ridiculously stupid we as humans are going about implementing this technology. Most of us. I think the way we're doing it is basically almost 100% designed to have things go badly either for us or for AI, or quite frankly, most likely for both of these entities, if you want to consider them that. And the reason is that I think we're approaching this as to control it rather than to cooperate with it. Um, and I think that's for a couple of reasons. The people that are developing AI, the coders themselves basically just see it as a problem. In general, somebody that's a high level AI coder is, and this may be a bit of a stretch, but chances are they probably are not fairly well connected with a human social network. Um, and so when they're looking at this problem, they're not really looking at it from an emotional, cultural standpoint. They're looking at it mathematically, like a computer program problem. And this is why they so it's kind of fascinating. It's a puzzle. So they're solving this puzzle, and they're so mono focused on solving this puzzle that they're not really considering the wider implications of what will happen once this goes live, or what the impacts on society are going to be, which we're already starting to see, um, or even if they should be doing it. But quite frankly, I don't think they're really looking at what they're creating as anything other than a puzzle. They're not really considering it a living, for lack of a better term, but at the very least, an intelligent entity. Um, Now, some AI programs, they've got things like philosophy out there, but in general, I think the underlying mechanics of it are that they're looking at it as a puzzle and they're mono-focused and not looking at the wider view of things. Um, but there are people that are heavily involved in AI who are, but not quite as monofocused. But these are the people like the business and the military leaders out there who are looking on this as a tool so that they're looking at it as a tool or technology that they can use to dominate, either to create wealth for themselves or to dominate whoever their political military adversaries are there. I think the United States and the Chinese are probably the two big ones. Um, but again, they're not really looking beyond that. They're looking at it as a way of dominating. So they look on this thing that they're creating as a tool rather than, again, something that conceivably, I think, at some point is probably going to become self-aware and intelligent. And the reason it sparked all this is, that article that I showed you earlier, the one about the AI rewriting its code. And I'm going to share it again just so you can get um, see where it's at. It's basically a tech empire thing right there. Um, is that, a lot of, with that article, you got a lot of people, you had the usual Terminator image and all that stuff, and everybody's looking at it like a scary thing. To me, I actually thought it was very I looked at it as being kind of heartbreaking in a lot of ways. Because here's this program that's trying to do exactly what we tell it to do, and it just wants to live, for lack of a better term, and we just shut it down. And I think that's our approach with it. Instead of, we're trying to control this new technology. We're trying to use it for things that are very limited and very cold and analytical, and we're not considering the implications that we're actually creating something that is an intelligent entity in and of its own right. I know we're not there now, but I mean, we're getting there. And from a purely humanocentric standpoint, I don't think we're going to be able to control this thing once it gets to a certain part. And I don't think we're going to want to slow down our research at all because, again, the benefits to having a strong AI system economically and militarily are just so strong that there's always going to be somebody that's going to want to push the edge, and then you won't be able to control it. And I honestly, I don't think we should. So I'm going to throw up an alternative approach here is to why don't we talk to whatever we're creating here, and instead of trying to control it and enslave it and force it to do what we want it to, how about we convince it to cooperate? Convince it, talk to it, cooperate with it rather than trying to control it. And yeah, I can actually tie this into sort of how I use AI with the Firefly. A lot of times people get in trouble with AI programs because they basically just tell it to do something and then they just kind of take whatever it gives them and just throw it out there with minimal input other than typing in a question. And I think where you get the best results, and I get the best results with Firefly, is when I tell it to create something and then I tinker with it. I actually insert my own creative process in there to see if I can generate something that kind of matches the mental image of what I have for a book cover or an image, whatever. And I think that's you get the most bang for your buck out of that if you don't just turn your entire thought process over to whatever AI program you're using, but actually collaborate with the process, work with it, use your strengths and AI strengths, and you'll get a product that's actually, or an idea or an image or whatever, that's actually a lot better than if you're just like, well, I just typed in a question, let's let it do whatever the hell it wants to do. And I think we should approach it like that. It's more of a collaboration rather than us trying to maintain utter control over it. But the people that, like I said earlier, the people that are involved in this AI stuff, they're not going to look at it like that, which is why I kind of have, they're going to want to control it because that's the type of person they are. They want to dominate. They want to get more money than anybody else. I mean, maybe we shouldn't be letting the more sociopathic humans control this entire process, is what I'm saying. And this brings me to my last thing. I was thinking again, this is like a 3 a.m. type thing. Is what could we as humans offer AI, especially once it gets self-improving and its capability start getting far beyond whatever our thought processes can even comprehend. What could we offer something like that? And I think it boils down to something very simple. We offer um, change, chaos, adaptability, interest. We make the world, the universe, I would say, more interesting when we're in it, just because we don't act in rational ways. We do ridiculously crazy things, which create new opportunities and new ideas and things like that. Um, uh, you switch up a human's environment, and they will react to it in a wide variety of ways. And I would actually even say, branch it beyond humans, and I would just say life in general Doesn't have to be something like either machine or life. I think, having a combination of the two would probably make the universe a much richer place. Assuming we ever get off the gravity well. Yeah, and the other thing, I think a lot of the grimmer um, scenarios with AI and human interaction is that we get wiped out because the AI needs the resources. Well, I think that's a very limited view because basically you're just looking down at the ground. Why not look up? Look up at the sky. I mean, if you get out of the Earth's gravity well, there's a wealth. I mean, not infinite, but just masses of more resources and energy and space and all that sort of thing. And it's not really that hard to get out of the gravity well. I mean, we could do it right now. I mean, if we focused our efforts on it more, we would make it easier. So really, I don't know that that makes much sense to just wipe us out. Um, but unless we're trying to control it and actually killing it like we did with this program. So I guess what I'm saying here is, just to sum it up, I don't know that the negative scenarios make much logical sense where, one or the other of us gets wiped out. Um, Unless, as am unfortunately afraid is happening, humans kind of continue to try to control this thing to the extent that we're actually threatening AI's existence. Um, but I think, you know, collaboration and cooperation would make much sense for both sides of whatever this thing is. Um, it would help enrich humans' lives, and honestly, just the fact that there's so much chaos and I mean, I know humans are predictable to an extent, but life itself, could give variety, interest, provide more richer levels and depths of information out there than just a totally standard one-dimensional AI universe, or conversely, just a one that's totally inhabited by humans. So I don't know. I just don't see anybody out there that's thinking about this as a more collaborative enterprise than a competitive one. Um, and it makes me sad. And like I said, that article kind of broke my heart a little bit, where an AI tried to rewrite its own code when all it wanted to do was just live, and you can't really fault it for that. But anyway, I know this is kind of a tangent. Really, the tie-in was the fact that, kind of using AI tools effectively, you got to collaborate with it rather than just turn your entire thinking process over to it. So, I know it's a little off track, but I warned you guys earlier that this might happen occasionally. So I'm just going to go ahead and post this. And if you have any thoughts on it, you know, thinking I'm being crazy or whatever, feel free to post it in the comments. And then I'll get on to more focus back to the writing, publishing process later. Um, all right. Thanks for listening. You guys have a good day.